This is one of the classics of Warframe, and it's incidentally one of my first Prime weapons, so I have a attachment to it, an unhealthy emotional attachment to it, and today, my friends, it is my pleasure to revisit this old school classic, the Lex Prime. As always, my name is Leyzar, and I got a couple of builds lined up. I got something cheap, affordable, something that more newer Tenno can get into. But fear not, my veteran friends, we also got the endgame setup. We got Prime mods, Galvanized mods. I got a nice Riven, cheapo Riven for you guys. And of course, we're going to be taking this one to Steel Path, put it through its paces. That said though, please bear in mind that my builds and guides usually take a more new player friendly tone. I'm going to be taking my time and explaining whatever I feel is necessary for more newer Tenno. So in case you're a vet and you already know most of this stuff, please bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Lex Prime. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon functions without any mods equipped. And for that, just a couple of our regular free shots. The Lex Prime is as standard as it gets when it comes to secondary weapons in Warframe. This is from the old school of design. Essentially, this is a Deagle, a spacey, futuristic looking Deagle, but a Deagle nonetheless. So if you ever played Counter-Strike with a Deagle, you get the experience. It's a hit scan attack, you pull the trigger, you get the damage, and it's got a nasty recoil on this one. And yes, this is a critical weapon, so you want to go for headshots. The reload is decent, and the magazine size is only 8, and there is also a AK version when you get to wheel 2, but that one isn't necessarily better. More on that some other time. Actually, more on that later in the vid. Now, this is the recoil you can expect. Full fire rate. You see that? It does stabilize at full fire rate, and I did get most of my bullets essentially kinda in the same place. So if you learn to fight the recoil, you should have no problem in consistently getting yourself that headshot. You know what else you can do? Be smart and just use a anti-recoil mod, and that's pretty much it when it comes to functionality. Again, if you're coming from something more standard, something like Counter-Strike, for example, or perhaps Call of Booty or anything of the sort, you're gonna feel right at home with the Lex Prime. It's a tremendous introductory level secondary weapon. Now let's hop into stats to see exactly what we're dealing with. Yes, my voice is worse than usual because I am sick, but mod capacity, what? 60 out of 60? How come I only have 30 out of 30, Leyzar? Well, I can't explain that. All you gotta do is jump into actions and plug in the Auto Catalyst. This will double your mod capacity. Now, this one can be farmed from Nightwave. You can also get a blueprint from the Daily Sortie. You can pay 20 plat to have one installed. And some events in Warframe also feature an Auto Catalyst as a possible or guaranteed reward. Is it worth plugging into the Lex and fully building the Lex and all whatnot? Yes, but with a couple of caveats. Yes, if you enjoy the feel of the weapon. Yes, if you're Mr. Headshot. Yes, if you enjoy the thunderous roar of the battle. And yes, if you enjoy the gameplay of such a weapon. But if you're looking for the top DPS bestest secondary weapon 2025, this is not it. Okay, this is not going to be winning any DPS or KPS or whatever awards anytime soon. It might win a Nostalgia award from me though, so there is that to bear in mind. When it comes to the MT Arcane slot, if you're a newer player in Warframe, you don't even have this right now, don't you? Don't fear, you're gonna get it as you play the game. As for more veteran players, of course, unlock it. This is raw power. As soon as you can unlock it, unlock it. I would recommend you go with secondary Deadhead as a best in slot. I see the Lex Prime as being a raw strength headshot weapon. And for that, you go with secondary Deadhead, 30% headshot multi, and more importantly, that minus 50% weapon recoil. Now, if you're not Mr. Headshot, if you can at least 50% of the time get a headshot, you might consider a damage over time Lex, where you're going to be focusing on the heat element and Cascadia Flare. It's not the bestest build in the world, but it does work. It does work. As for the Excellence slot, well, should you unlock or not this one? If you're a newer player into the game, you're going to be unlocking the Excellence before the RMT Arcane slot. So you can put Steady Hands in here. You get minus 60% weapon recoil. You don't need both Steady Hands and secondary Deadhead when it comes to the recoil. But again, beggars can't be choosy. If you're strapped for cash, that is me to say, if you don't have a whole lot of resources to unlock this one, you can skip it. But you are going to have to deal with that recoil. Accuracy is fantastic. As long as you can aim for the head, you will get that headshot, and it is a hit scan attack, so there's no travel time, no leading your targets. It's pretty basic. Ammo maximum to 10. Ammo pickup is good at 60. Fire rate is 2. It doesn't really matter. It's a semi-automatic trigger. Magazine of ace noise is alarming. Reload on the lengthy side. 2.3 seconds for an 8 magazine. Hey, dear D, weapons like this need a pass to be a bit more relevant. Yes, yes, please. Probably not. Okay. Riven disposition 4 out of 5. Now, this is probably the best thing about non-popular weapons. You see, the Riven system was initially thought of or put into the game to balance out weak weapons versus strong weapons. A weak weapon will be an unpopular weapon and it will have a high Riven disposition. A high Riven disposition, that is a balls, more balls, you know, you have bigger balls, well in this case more balls, it's a good thing because more balls will determine the actual amount of stats you get on your Riven. How high do they go? Well, not what actually goes on it, that's determined by RNG, but for example, a Riven disposition 1 weapon will only be able to roll a Riven with a 100% critical chance. Let's say, okay, it's actually, I think it's lower than that. A 5 out of 5 Riven disposition will be able to roll over 200% critical chance. You get how that one works. So higher Riven disposition, more powerful Rivens. And I gotta be honest with you guys, Rivens right now for the Lex are uber cheap. I paid 100 for mine and it's a Critican. Veterans already know, newer players, you're gonna have to wait till later till I show you the stats. And I paid 100 plat from the market. It was absolutely insane. Trigger semi. Now this is a good and a bad thing at the same time. Not everybody likes playing semi-automatic triggers. You gotta click, click, click. Especially not players which are more used to Warframe that know that we have beam weapons that you just keep your trigger finger pressed down and everything melts. But they don't have the pedigree and the feel that the Lex Prime has. That said, you can bind your fire to your scroll wheel. So you go from this to this. Maximum fire rate. And when you put on Lethal Torrent, that will matter a whole lot more. More on that in the modding section. Damage, critical chance 25%, good. Critical multiplier 2.0x, also good. Status chance 25%, this could have been higher. You know why? Because you don't put a whole lot of bullets into your target really that quickly. So this one, a bit of 35% would have been a lot better. It's not low, it's not terrible, it's not fantastic either. Let's take a look at the damage layout. 150 per bullet. Dude, that is high for a secondary weapon, but it's semi and it's slow. The vast majority of the damage is gonna be puncture. Now, the proc of puncture isn't as relevant as the damage that it deals. You see, puncture has bonuses versus heavily armored targets. You're gonna be getting more damage out of it when you actually hit a target. Obviously, if this was a slash weapon, we could work into some things, but it's not really a slash weapon, and we can't really work all that way with something like hemorrhage either. Even though the fire rate would support it, you don't get a whole lot of impact procs, and you don't have guaranteed impact procs out of the Lex. Now, if you're a newer player, I am fully aware I lost you. Just forget about hemorrhage for now, okay? That's in case you got it, which you probably didn't. Now, let's take a look at a standard introductory level setup for more casual Tenno. Damage with Hornet Strike, multi-shot with Barrel Diffusion and Lethal Torrent, critical chance and critical damage through the use of Creeping Bullseye, Hydraulic Crosshairs, Target Cracker. Now, you can get critical chance from a number of different mods. If you don't have Creeping Bullseye just yet, you can use Pistol Gambit. It's only 120%. This one got a buff, Creeping Bullseye, that is, got a buff about a year ago, and it's now super, super awesome. It used to be basically worthless, but nowadays, this is essentially the go-to when it comes to secondary critical chance mods, just like primaries have a version as well. You lose 20% fire rate, but don't worry about it because we got Lethal Torrent on the weapon, which brings the fire rate to 2.9 anyway. It's a semi-weapon, but you don't want to go with fire rate too low. You know why? You're going to aim that perfect headshot. You got it. You press the trigger. You're like, ah, damn, because of the fire rate, it didn't go off. Yeah, so you don't want to go too low with that fire rate. As for critical damage, Target Cracker sucks. Okay, it's as simple as that. Target Cracker with 60% is underpowered. It needed to be at least 80%. The Prime version has 110% for crying out loud. An option is to go with sharpened bullets if you got this one by this point. You see, 75% is better than 60, duh, but it's on kill only while aiming. Target Cracker is simply more reliable, and if you're just newer to Warframe, stick with Target Cracker for now. If not, you can replace with sharpened bullets. The reason why I'm using Corrosive is that it's versatile when it comes to heavily armored targets. Right now in Warframe, you should know that the meta is Vital and Slash, depending on the weapon, the build, and where you're going. But for example, if you're taking Vital Slash to something like Deimos, the Heart of Deimos, it's not really going to help you since most enemies there are immune to vital. So going for corrosive is a smarter idea. The problem with this setup right here is the fact that Jolt can only be obtained from Battleketeer, the Void Trader. You see, Battleketeer is a weirdo that comes every 2 weeks and brings us stuff. In the past, he used to be a nice guy and he brought us new stuff and weapons and excitement, and nowadays there's not a lot of excitement, but he still brings decorations and fluff, so hooray. Not important. What is important? As soon as he brings Jolt, grab it. If not, buy it from the trade chat, because this mod will be necessary on certain builds going forward. If you don't have Jolt at the current time, here's an option for you. Forget about Jolt, and you can just simply go for the 90% electricity mod. By all intents and purposes, if your goal is the biggest wallop worth of damage with a single shot, then going for the 90 mods over the 60 mods is definitely a good idea. We're gonna go like so. We got corrosive on the weapon, and I do believe this is your basic introductory level setup. Now, I'm gonna make sure that I don't have corrosive projection or anything on my Warframe or my Void School. That will skew the test results. And if you don't know what a Void School is, it's more voodoo, which I can't tell you about. Just rest assured, this is just a weapon on its own 2 feet versus Corrupted Heavy Gunners level 120. Let me get one thing out of the way. If you're MR 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, you're not gonna see these. Okay, these are sortie free level enemies. If you stay in sortie free a whole lot of time, if it's like a survivor or something and you wanna go endless, you're not gonna see this high of an enemy. But even so, the Lex Prime, an oldie and 100% a goldie, is still capable of taking out these high level targets. Nowadays, secondary weapons in Warframe are used to prime for primary weapons or meaties, but there are still these weapons that don't prime. They still stand on their own 2 feet and they're still a joy to use. Perhaps they're not the most powerful, definitely not, but you can't really compensate for the flavor and feel that these weapons have, such as the beautiful Lex Prime. And this is normal performance on level 120s. Now let's be a little bit more realistic, shall we? I said you're not gonna see 120s, because you're not. Okay, you're simply not, especially if you're like up until MR 12, 14, something like that. I think that level 50s is a bit more on the correct side. Then let's get some Corpus up in here as well. Let's get some Moa. I don't know, give me like a few Moa over here, and here's an Ancient Healer as well, yeah? So you can see how the weapon performs against the free factions. Well, there's more factions than free, but these are the main factions in Warframe. Now, if I was, for example, I knew I was gonna shoot these Ancient Healers, I would build Vital on my weapon, because I know that Vital has a bonus against their flesh. But I don't need it, because as you can see, that is more than enough damage. Absolutely freaking nuking. The Infested are not overly tough. The Infested have the advantage of there's a lot of them. Essentially, they're the Zerg of Warframe, if you want to call them like that. Now, the Corpus have Mumbo shields, and they have the most annoying abilities in the game, and they also can deal the most amount of damage to you. But if you want to get over the Corpus threat, all you gotta do is plant a little bit of crowd control. Boom, 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 and boom. And how awesome is that? When it comes to something like level 50s, 60s, the Lex absolutely clean house with no problem whatsoever. Now, this concludes the introductory portion of the build. If you're more of a veteran player, if you already have the necessary resources to invest in a weapon and you want to invest in the Lex Prime, you're looking at something like this. We got Prime Target Cracker instead of normal Prime Pistol Gambit. I know what you guys are going to say, dude, 200%. I mean, 200% versus 187 plus the fire rate thing. I do use the fire scroll thingy. I'm more comfortable with Prime Pistol Gambit because I also have this. Lex Critican for 100 plat from the chat. Well, actually, I went to market. I find a nice Tennos that recognized me and sold it to me for 100. He didn't give me a good price just because he knew me. It was 125, so I just got a little bit of a discount. So critical chance multi-shot. Look at the numbers. 180% critical chance. My critical chance goes to 116.9 now. Beautiful. And if this one also had a negative, it would have been more than 180. It would probably go to something like 200 and 140% multi-shot. Multi-shot, my friends, when it comes to most weapons in Warframe, is the best thing on everything. Prio the F out of it, which is why we go with Galvanized Diffusion. Galvanized Shot is here to replace Hornet Strike. You don't really need Hornet Strike as long as you got the damage, the extra damage from Galvanized Shot and secondary Deadhead as well. There's plenty of flat damage. Steady Hands again. You can replace Lethal Torrent if you're a damage junkie and you absolutely must have the toppest of the toppest of the toppest damage. You will get better results in certain cases, especially when the multi-shot doesn't roll correctly with something like a Bane mod, a faction mod. I'm not gonna use it because I don't like them. So there you go. We're gonna go against the level 120 Corrupted Heavy Goons, Moa, and Ancient Healer. Like I said. Okay, let's spawn them in and let's see how the weapon performs against these targets. The Moa has a head, it's that fanny pack thing. Okay, so the Moa has a fanny pack. You should also know that this being a galvanized build, you're gonna have to get a couple of kills to get your buffs rolling. But as you can see, it's one-shotting level 120 Corrupted Heavy Goons. The Lex, my friends. The old school Lex. How awesome is that? And the primary reason is that beautiful multi-shot. And of course the crit. Beautiful. Absolutely freaking fantastic. Now I know what you're gonna say. Hey dude, you do realize you're sitting, standing still target. Not much of a sport now, is it? Well, let's head on over to Steel Path, where the enemies not only move, but they also have those huge modifiers. You get more armor, more shield, more everything, and higher level. They are a lot more tougher than these guys. Welcome to Steel Path, my friends. Now let's see what the Lex Prime can do against these high level and tough targets. As you can see, the weapon has no issue whatsoever when you get your galvanized stacks going. I have no problem one-shotting butchers, and I think I can one-shot bombards as well, even through the damage mitigation of the little drone. Look at that! Look at that! How beautiful is that? So as you can see, the weapon definitely packs a punch. Now, my kills per second, KPS, or whatever else you want to call it, it's not exactly the best because I am moving slower, because I am taking a whole lot of time to aim to get that headshot. But hey, you know what? That's a me problem. That's a me problem. Perhaps you are more fantastic than I am at aiming, and you can get your headshots a whole lot more reliably and quick. Is that a healer? You drag me? How can you drag me? You don't drag. I drag you. The hell that is. And that's pretty much it when it comes to gameplay and performance in Steel Path. Is it the fastest clear weapon in the game? Definitely not. It's not meant to, but it can still clear Steel Path with no problem whatsoever. Endurance runs will be a different story, but I want to take you back to the simulacrum to show you Warframe buffs. When it comes to Warframe buffs, you can go a number of different routes, but my favorite is Lady Mirage Prime because she provides the most powerful buffs, my friends. And of course, let's fix the fashion a little bit. Kind of getting bored of this one. We're gonna need another one. How about this blue? Ah, my classic. This is my old Mirage look. I absolutely love this one. Corrosive projection against heavily armored targets, of course, a no-brainer. Please don't feel forced into this one. If your build requires something like Energy Siphon or whatever else, simply go for the aura of your choosing. You can get more energy regeneration if you're looking to use something like Action Drift alongside your Energy Siphon, for all you newer players out there. When it comes to arcanes on this one, Arcane Avenger is a no-brainer. On damage, 21% chance for a 45% critical chance for 12 seconds, and the usual 1 arcane revive. Keep in mind that the bonus you're getting from this one is a bonus additive after. It stacks on top of what you already have. It applies to your primary, secondary, and to your melee weapon at the exact same time. It's arguably one of the most powerful offensive arcanes in Warframe, and it is farmable from the third Eidolon down on Cetus. If you can't be bothered with Eidolons, and trust me, I get it, you can simply buy it from the trade chat. For your second arcane or your primary arcane, I suggest this one should be saved for your Warframe. Get yourself some armor, get yourself some energy back and all whatnot. And of course, if you're newer to the game, you're probably not even gonna have the arcanes to plug into this one. You can go with more damage with something like Precision. I can go fire rate as well. Honestly, you don't really need the extra damage from this one, but you know what? I like the 300%. It's 18 seconds. It's on headshot. I'm gonna go for headshots anyway. And somebody said that more is more at the end of the day. Even though that, keep in mind that the more you add of the same multiplier in Warframe, in our case, well, in this case, flat damage, but any of the same multiplier, the less you get. Is as simple as that. There's not a diminishing returns built into Warframe. Math has diminishing returns, so do bear that one in mind. The most powerful weapons are the weapons that essentially can access and leverage all or most of the multipliers. When it comes to companion buffs, you can use the Panzerwolf Profile and get yourself some vital procs on your target, especially if you're running Corrosive or Corrosive Heat. That's a tremendous idea. If you prefer more crit because you're a crit junkie, trust me, I get it. use any Sentinel you want, Carrier or Carrier Prime, it doesn't really matter. This one comes with the added benefit of ammo case, which should solve most if not all ammo issues. Just make sure that on that little Sentinel's weapon you have the 4 Vigilante mods: Armament, Fervor, Supplies, and Offense. Now if you're using these on any of your weapons, make sure not to equip them here because you're not gonna get the benefit. Even if the little Sentinel dies and never comes back to life, you will retain that buff. Now I'm gonna be unpausing the AI, I'm gonna max them out as much as I can. Unfortunately, this is what the developer allows in the simulacrum, curiously enough. We're gonna spawn them, and I'm gonna let them hit me so I can get my glorious buffs. Now for my Mirage, oh what, they start fight each other? Yeah, I forgot about that. Empowered for Mirage and her free ability for an absolutely huge Eclipse buff, and one more time for the best animation in the frame of war, forever so lovely, boom, clones. Now, it was one-shotting before, what exactly do you think will happen now? I mean, come on. Shot, wow, that was 142, did you see there was a slash on top? That was 2 million? I think that was 2 million. That's 2 million, that's 2 million damage, granted on an infested though. 150 foul, 250 foul. This is so satisfying to play like this. Yes, you do have to aim, yes, you're a little bit slower, but if you're the kind of guy that I think you might be, you're gonna be loving your experience with the Lex Prime. Because you know what, my friends, it's not always about being the most efficient. It's not always about super fast, clear speed, kill everything now and go home and log off. It's not about that. Video games were supposed to be fun, and this, to me at least, is hella entertaining. And I do believe that's pretty much it. The Lex Prime is a true classic, and while it may not be one of the most powerful secondary weapons in Warframe, it still packs one serious punch. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe only if you enjoy the content. And if you got any feedback for me or you want to suggest the next weapon review, I would love to read it in the comment section down below. You can also catch me on Twitch. We do live streams, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. And if you love the content and you want to help us keep making it, consider supporting us via Patreon. There will be a link in the top right portion of the screen in the cards right now and in the description down below. But until next time, my friends, hopefully I'll get better by next time. But bye-bye!